It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show! It's time for the Spoony One! Wrestling Show!
Alright, well, I'm here with my brother Miles, and we just finished watching Money in the Bank, which I believe this is the only pay-per-view I bought this year.
Yeah.
This is the first one I bought. I was really interested in seeing this one. For as cynical as I was, I had my own opinions about how they were going to screw this up, but I was still curious because there's a still part of me. It's still real to me a little bit, I wanted to see it. This is really one of the biggest angles in the last few years. Just the way it was set up, it was really intriguing. The way it was brought forth, and this was a curious angle to me, the whole CM Punk thing, and this is really the only thing I think the crowd in Chicago cared about. If you listen to the crowd, was this idea that CM Punk was basically shooting, talking about how Cena's a kiss ass, and the people backstage are sycophants, and how Cena's he's the dynasty, he's the industry standard, he's the guy who everything works out for him because he kisses McMahon's ass. And I started to wonder, why do I like this angle so much better than when TNA does it? Because TNA does this shit all the fucking time. Like, especially when they start calling people by their real names, like when Vince calls CM Punk Phil, and CM Punk's calling The Rock Dwayne, and I'm like, why do I like this so much better when WWE does it? Is it a double standard? Am I a WWE fanboy? Am I just the TNA hater? And I finally realized no, because this is really the first time in as long as I can really remember, since maybe can you really remember the last time since really when WCW was in the Monday Night Wars, when they really started kind of going real on this I'm leaving the promotion type stuff? I can't remember the last time I've done that. TNA does this all the fucking time, where you got Sting calling Hogan out, I want to see the real Terry Bollea, people are always calling each other by their real names, people are always talking about how they're going to other promotions. Hell, Jeff Jarrett just came back with another Federation's heavyweight championship and shit like that.
You don't even need to go to TNA. When the last time Cena was fired, that lasted a whole month. Yeah, well, he was still on TV the whole time.
Well, that's the reason I was really cynical about this angle, was the fact that it was going to culminate in John Cena being fired if he lost the championship, and I'm like, again. The problem with that is you breed this kind of cynicism when you keep. You have these stipulations in matches, and then you immediately, they don't mean anything. The last time John Cena got fired because of the Nexus thing, he didn't miss a day. He didn't miss 10 minutes. He was backstage doing his goofy Cena shit and stuff like that. So when you threaten for the second time in a year that, John Cena's going to be fired, but this time it's really real. He's really going to be fired, and nobody buys it. Even now that, I'll just say spoilers, even now that Cena has lost the championship, do you really believe he's off TV?
No.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes. Now, again, I'm being really cynical even after this, but they might get rid of Cena for a little while. Apparently he's got nagging injuries. He might take some time off, but I would be stunned if he missed a week. I'd be stunned if they fired him on camera, because even if they do, that's the funny thing, is even if they do and he misses a week, people are just really sarcastic. He's gonna be back next week. But yeah, I think that was what the real deal was that TNA does this always shooting thing all the time, and this one felt special for the WWE because I hadn't seen this from this company in a long time, and it felt more real when you don't do it as much. When you rarely do it, so that was my big impression with this one. But
it also seems like, to me, it seems like they stumbled on another Stone Cold Steve Austin situation, where you had Stone Cold, who was this anti-hero, this person that shouldn't be liked by the actions that he does, but is, just because he seems genuine, because he's doing things, and he upset the status quo. In this case, you have CM Punk, who really, he's just speaking his mind, and in the end, people appreciate that a hell of a lot more than the standard paper champion of John Cena.
Yeah, that's really, I think, this isn't hard to do. This kind of thing where the reason Cena's getting mixed reactions to downright being hated a lot of places is because he's considered the company man. He's considered the guy who's being forced down everyone's throats. And here you've got CM Punk, this character who's shooting straight, who's telling it like it is, who's rebelling against the establishment. And people like that.
It's also the embodiment of kind of the different styles clashes where you have John Cena, who's purely marketing and has no wrestling ability, and you have people like CM Punk, and earlier in the show we had the Money in the Bank winner that normally don't get that kind of attention because they're great wrestlers and not great marketers. And so you have that clash going on that, you're forcing down Cena that everyone hates on a wrestling level, but they understand because it's marketing. And you finally have someone that's fighting the system in that case.
Yeah, it is rather parallel to Stone Cold because, again, he's this counterculture guy who didn't play by the rules, and so that was kind of the crux of the whole theme with Cena, where he says you're no longer the rebel, you're the establishment, you're the dynasty, you're the Yankees and stuff like that, and that's essentially what's the case is, Cena has essentially become the corporate symbol, which is what makes him so loathsome. Is he's basically become the Flintstones chewable vitamins of wrestling, and the kids love it. But anyone with two brain cells to rub together is going to see right through it as a transparent marketing ploy, and they just don't like that. They don't like being manipulated. That's really the plain fact of it is
he's now the stooge.
He's the corporate stooge, and they've seen the same old shit from him for years. I mean, I keep telling people, like, every time John Cena wins the title, I was like, I was sick of his shit 3 years ago. How sick do you think I am now? And so that was really the big story was what the hell are they going to do with this whole idea with CM Punk leaving the company, and so I think everyone really wanted to see that. But from the top, I don't think we'll dwell much on this. I'll just tell you right from the beginning, this was a great show. I enjoyed the hell out of this show, mainly because it focused on really good wrestling, and that's about it. I think the right people went over. I think the finishes, by and large, were pretty believable. Even the one that I thought I should be mad at, I'll tell you which one that is in a minute, but I liked pretty much every finish here.
Well, again, you give the great wrestlers an opportunity to work, and they're going to do it. And Money in the Bank is a great opportunity for that. You have 8 people, so you do get that mixture of name recognition stars, the Kanes and whatnot, the Wade Barretts, but you also get the people that'll bust their ass to make it a quality matchup.
Yeah. So the first match was the SmackDown Money in the Bank championship, and I noted it was actually early on. I noticed that they specified the SmackDown Money in the Bank was specifically for the world title, the SmackDown title. That seems obvious in hindsight, but there was a lot of talk of if CM Punk wins, will both Money in the Banks cash in? And apparently that couldn't happen. Even that couldn't happen unless maybe Vince McMahon could have lied or something like that. But whatever. This was probably honestly, if I'm being completely honest, was probably the best match on the show. I love this match. They were all good, but this was a really even the characters you wouldn't think might not be that impressive leading up to this. I'm thinking namely of Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel. They all got their chances to really highlight their abilities. This was a very athletic, very very nicely paced, fast paced, but long enough to give everyone a chance to shine, and everyone did that. I really don't think there was aside from a few flubs here and there, this was a very crisply executed match. I was very impressed with Heath Slater and Justin Gabriel, who did an amazing 450 splash off a ladder, which was really cool. The big spot that I really cringed at was when Sin Cara got powerbombed off the apron through a ladder, and I think if you look really close, you can see it was kind of a tricked out ladder.
He said he got Mike Awesome through the ladder.
He got Awesome bombed through the ladder, but it was a really sick visual, and Sin Cara sold it like he was fucking murdered. He was spasming out. Oh god, it looked like he was fucking dead. and the announcers were talking about it like he'd been fucking killed. Like Booker T was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't be caught with. If there's a felony being committed, I can't be around here, dog. And like, so they carted Sin Cara off on a stretcher, and he did not come back that entire match. I called this match completely wrong. I called the winner wrong. I was pretty sure. Who did I say? I thought I actually picked Wade Barrett to win this one at first, and I'll tell you why. It's because I was thinking ahead for later if Money in the Bank was cashed in, and you know if all the Money in the Bank winners came and cashed in, like who could lose to CM Punk, and I was thinking Wade Barrett would be a good option to get his ass kicked and lose his Money in the Bank, and nobody really cares because who cares about Wade Barrett? But when I realized it was only for the World Heavyweight, I had no guess after that. I was like, I don't know, Cody Rhodes, and I guessed wrong. Daniel Bryan won the Money in the Bank, which again was a surprising, but you know I love it. Hell,
Yeah.
hell, any chance to get Daniel Bryan in the main event at a pay-per-view, shit, do it.
Yeah, I was
Do
expecting with Randy Orton they were gonna try to push another heel, like another Kane run, or I know he's not heel now, but they were gonna, Kane's tailor-made for that sort of thing, or Wade Barrett, or somebody else. So yeah, they've shat on Daniel Bryan for a long time. So I'm glad, I'm happy.
You know, this I hate to come off as too optimistic, but this might be really a sign of WWE management recognizing that these guys can wrestle. You know, these people want to see these guys. People want to see them in athletic competition, and they just don't want to see the big bodybuilders who can't move, who are slow and uncharismatic. You know, the small guys can really go, and this might be a sign of, you got CM Punk. And you got Daniel Bryan, and you got all these great, they're showcasing dudes like Evan Bourne. They're showcasing dudes like Justin Gabriel and Heath Slater, like all these guys who are doing really well, and they gave them the spotlight in this pay-per-view, and they took it and they ran with it, and it was really good.
Well, it's not. So you can have that, but I also think it's good having a nice mixture of having people that, because it's not just one person; it's the level of competition that they have, and when you have the undersized Chris Jericho, undersized for what Vince McMahon likes, but he can make anyone else look fantastic. Rey Mysterio can make any one of his opponents look fantastic. And when you can do that, you can have that with Daniel Bryan. You can have that to where he makes whoever he faces. The Cody Rhodes match. I don't like Cody Rhodes at any other time, but when he faced off against Rey Mysterio, my God, that was one of my favorite matches of WrestleMania. So it's great having those people, and it's good that they're getting pushed so that they are finally bringing up new talent, so that it's not just the stale shit over and over and over again. It
does feel like they're actually trying to make new stars, which they desperately need at this point. I mean, they need some people to fill a vacuum, because I started thinking about, I think they said, like, during the Christian Randy Orton match, they brought up, like, if Christian loses, he goes to the back of the line. And Booker T says, if Christian loses, he goes to the back of the line. And on SmackDown, it's a long line. And I was like, who else is really in contention for the world title? And I couldn't think of a damn one. Who'd you come up with?
Mark Henry.
Mark Henry. Like, Mark Henry was really the only guy who's been put over strongly enough you might consider a contender of any kind. And beyond that, maybe Ezekiel Jackson, because he's IC champ. That was about all I had, man. Maybe Cody Rhodes, but even then you're kind of like, I don't know about that. Nobody's really at that level anymore.
I only said Mark Henry because he's getting his annual push.
Okay, second match was Kelly, the Divas champion, against Nikki Bella. Oh, God.
Kelly learned to take off a bra. That's progress.
This was not a good match. Oh, God. This was a really, really bad match.
Blown spots.
Kelly is probably... I have never seen anyone run the ropes worse than Kelly. ever. You know that thing they do where you'll see a guy who's kind of close to the ropes, and so what he kind of does is he throws his weight. He throws his weight into the ropes and uses the momentum to kind of launch himself. It's just this thing that most wrestlers do so well you don't even notice it. They go, he sees the guy over there and he's like, and he runs over there. When it's you don't even notice it because they just go back and they run. Kelly, when she does this, say this, the couch back here is the rope. She looks back, she sees the rope, and she takes like 6 stutter steps towards the rope. She starts like stutter stepping backwards and then goes, and then like does 6 stutter steps forward and then throws a clothesline.
The way I see it is, imagine the ring ropes are like electrified. So you see her running, and she's running full tilt until she gets close to the ropes. And
and then she hits the brakes.
She pumps the brakes, and she touches it as quickly as she can so as not get electrocuted. And then runs back off again.
She's almost afraid like hitting the ropes will hurt, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure hitting the ropes hurts like a bitch. But she's so afraid of it. She actually, when she'll run towards it, she'll step on the brakes, she'll stutter step, and then like try to break it with her arm. She'll try to like, and then it's horrible. They should just, either they need to teach her how to run the ropes or they need to tell her to stop running the ropes. Because it looks so fake. I know it is, but God.
Like, watching a bad movie makes you appreciate all the little things directors do. Watching a really shitty match can make you appreciate the little things wrestlers do.
Exactly, that thing where they just kind of, they rebound off the ropes. You know, when...
It looks so natural.
100 times out of 100, you don't look at that and go, oh, that's... You don't even realize that's something that is a thing. You know, that's... You don't even realize that takes any kind of skill. Because, I'll tell you why, it's because it's the first fucking thing they teach you when you learn to wrestle! Is to fucking to run at the ropes. Maybe the first thing is how to get in the ring, but it's fucking up there. This was a bad match. This put me in a bad mood.
And Eve Torres was there.
Yeah.
And
this match just kind of ended.
Yeah.
They're kind of blowing spots left and right. One person's blowing a spot, another person blows a spot. Then all of a sudden, Kelly just picks her up and hits the Fame-Asser and wins. There's no interference. Eve Torres runs in there and celebrates. And I actually paid attention to the storyline. And the whole story was, Kelly kept losing because Brie Bella would interfere. And so Eve Torres was her backup at the pay-per-view to make sure nobody interfered. But nobody did interfere!
You didn't even need the build-up. It's something that I've grown accustomed to, that the Bellas, switch in for one another.
No, there was no switching.
But this one, she let her do her thing.
Eve Torres literally sat in the corner and didn't move that whole time. She did not get involved in this whole thing. When the storyline was written specifically to get her involved, that I guess she was just there to look pretty. She did, but whatever, you know. What was next? I think they had McMahon arrive, and he went backstage, and
there's John Laurinaitis.
John Laurinaitis, and a man who would later be identified as a legal attorney,
a corporate lawyer.
We don't know his name. I am a lawyer. I am Joe Lawyer. He looked like a lawyer too. He had kind of these nerd glasses, and he had a little briefcase, and he was very quiet. John Laurinaitis, I had not seen him in a long time. I've seen him before, but he looked shockingly average. But they went back there, and McMahon's kind of pacing the wall, pacing the room.
I like now that it had been established that we actually had to show John Laurinaitis.
Yeah, well, they name dropped him.
And really, you could have had anyone walk out, and I wouldn't have known. They had to specifically mention, hey, that's John Laurinaitis.
It was like head of talent relations or something like that.
We were kind of joking that every time he entered a room, he should have been like, I'm John Laurinaitis.
He should have had a little name tag.
Hi, I'm John Laurinaitis.
So the interviewer walked in and basically came out and says, have you signed CM Punk to a new deal? And McMahon goes, no, I have not. And so he says, I was basically going to give him the farm. And and he wouldn't sign. And the guy said, "Well, what did he say to you?" And he said, McMahon, he said he pointed at the door and said only 2 words: "Get out." And what was he was to me, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, to me, the chairman of the board. And so I actually was kind of intrigued by that reaction, because again, that's kind of that kind of reaction that you only get from Stone Cold Steve Austin, where like he was the guy who dared to defy the chairman of the board, because he dared defy me, which I thought was always really funny. And if I may go on a tangent, if you watch the Raw before this, Punk comes out and he says, "I'm going to do, you know what, Vince, you want to negotiate a contract? I'll negotiate a contract. Let's do it live in this ring." And so Vince comes out and Punk says, "You know what I want?" He says, "I don't want to fly first class. A superstar of my caliber he flies in his own private jet, so I want the CM Punk jet. You know what? I want my face on the Titantron. I want my face on the programs. I want my face on the goddamn turnbuckle pads. I want money. I want the ice cream bars." And he starts naming all the stuff he wants his face on. And after all that, Vince McMahon, he looks sick. He looks like, "You son of a bitch, I hate you." But then he was going to sign the paper. Then John Cena comes out and kind of screws everything up, and he starts talking about, hustle, loyalty, respect. So Punk kind of bails out, goes up the ramp, and you can see Vince outside. He's still like, "Can I sign the thing?" He was still ready to sign the papers. He was going to give him the
I wanted my CM Punk turnbuckles.
He was gonna sign over the jet. He was gonna give him. We were gonna see CM Punk turnbuckles. I was so thinking like, Punk lists all these demands, and Vince goes, "All right, you son of a bitch," and Punk would be like, "Really? Shit, man, I was joking. Really? Okay. Give me the jet, sign it, quick." And so, I really thought that was how, for a minute, I thought that was how the storyline was going to play out, where, Punk's like, "Oh, shit, you are desperate. Okay. Ring of Honor ain't going to pay that much. Shit. A jet? Dude. He turned down a jet. I don't know what I'd do with a jet, but I'd fly places with it." The CM Punk jet. I wonder what the pictures on the turnbuckles would have looked like. There's so many things how this might have gone.
We were just saying the Looney Tunes little framing with the smiley face.
But yeah, then we had what am I forgetting? Big Show versus Mark Henry, which was you were really dreading this match, and you know what? So was I. This was not a good match, but
wasn't good.
This was an okay match. This was about as good as this was ever going to get. It was. They really didn't screw anything up. It was a slow, methodically paced match. It was 2 big fuckers just slamming each other. It was dull. But, again, out of Big Show and Mark Henry, they pretty much did everything they could have done to make this an entertaining match.
Again,
this was fine.
That shouldn't have been made. This match shouldn't have been done in the first place. Someone should have looked at it on paper and been like,
"You know what? Again, sorry. Go ahead."
Dear God.
I disagree, because again, the way this match turned out, the right person went over. I feel Mark Henry was put over strong, and this is at a time, like I said on SmackDown, when I was trying to name off contenders for that title, there really aren't any. And right now, more than ever, we need somebody strong put over who is a viable contender for that championship, because there isn't one. And I hate for it to be Mark Henry, but if you're going to push Mark Henry, this is the way to do it. He beat Big Show. He beat his ass pretty well, clean as a sheet. He did the World's Strongest Slam. Big Show kicked out. He did it again. He hit 2 Warrior Splashes, pinned him 1, 2, 3, and I was like, you know what? Fine.
See, I'd just rather they send R-Truth to SmackDown.
Maybe, but that's fantasy booking. I'm saying with the situation they got now, this was about as good as you could hope for. I was pleased with this. I was expecting Bowling Shoe Ugly, and I got better than that. I got better, slightly better. It was okay. I know I'm forgetting one. I know what I was forgetting. Then they did the Raw Money in the Bank, which I actually thought was... I thought it was interesting because they never mentioned that if Punk wins the title and leaves the building, the Raw Money in the Bank briefcase is essentially worthless. or at least I think it is.
I would assume so.
One would assume so, because the title no longer exists to be contended over. And in fact, this is this is really interesting now when we get to the end of this, because now there essentially is no... Punk leaves the building with the championship. So, one would assume the briefcase is worthless. I don't know about that.
Holding on to it in the hopes that he comes back.
Well, that's what I was wondering was... Alberto Del Rio wins the Raw Money in the Bank. But one wonders if he can, like, go stalking CM Punk at his house, or, like, go chasing him down, or whatever, or if he can compel him to come back, like if Alberto says, like, I want you at SummerSlam, you have to come because that's the terms of the contract. I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of interesting to see where they go from here, because either the briefcase is worthless or it's not, and if it's not, why isn't it? You know, and so this is ordinarily maybe the thing that might make me angry, but actually it's kind of intriguing to see where they go with it, because apparently they got to get this belt off CM Punk now, and I have no clue how. People are telling me that Punk is scheduled to be at the next Raw. I don't know why he'd show up, because he'll just get jumped. But I don't know. Yeah, again, it'll be interesting. The Raw Money in the Bank was another really good match. I liked it a lot. It was not quite as good as the SmackDown one.
It was more spotty.
There were some things I would not have done. It started off with, like, as everyone went to the ring, they picked up, like, a little stunty ladder. And when they started the match, like, all 8 guys started having, like, a ladder duel. Which seems like a good idea in your head, but in execution, it didn't work out. It looked really lame.
Because 8 people were all huddled together going, like...
Oh. It looked really... that part looked really phony. I can't, like I said, I can't complain too much. Actually, the worst part of this one, there was a lot of blown spots in this one, way more than in the SmackDown main event. And again, these guys busted their asses. I'm not saying it wasn't a good match. It was a good match, but there was a lot more noticeable fuck ups in this match. There are a few moments where, like, R-Truth is supposed to run up a ladder, vault over the top rope, and kind of slingshot or some kind of.
Because there were the pre-done spots.
Yes, kind of swing the ladder up into Jack Swagger's face, and he fucked that up. There was a moment where, I lost my train of thought now. What else got fucked up? Oh, there's a moment where Ray gets pinned in the corner. There's a ladder. He's in the corner, and there's a ladder across it, so he can't get out of the corner. And so, somebody, like, slams Ray's head into the ladder, and the ladder falls. And so Ray's like, oh fuck, I hit my head. And then he picks the ladder up, and then fixes it so he's once again trapped in the corner. He re-trapped himself in the corner. I love that part. I was like, why did you do that? So it was because Kofi Kingston had to jump off the ladder, and so yeah.
It seemed like someone was... Who was it that was going to die falling off that ladder? Because they fell and they went nearly on their head.
I keep thinking Justin Gabriel, who was going to do the 450, and I didn't think the ladder was going to hold him, but it did. Truth?
Did he fall over?
No. You're thinking of the spot where Jack Swagger and Kofi Kingston were on the ladder, and the ladder went out from under him, and Swagger landed really ugly on, like, his arm and on the side of his neck. And then Kofi, like, landed foot first on his fucking throat. That looked fucking horrible.
That wasn't planned at all.
That looked like it's gonna suck tomorrow.
They fell in the worst way possible.
Oh, that looked bad. Miz also left claiming an injury. He was like he fell off a ladder. And he was like, "Oh, my fucking knee!" And he got kind of helped off, and he came back later. But I liked how they handled the injuries here, because the whole time this actually really helps the match seem like a special and dangerous thing, because they're always talking about how people's careers are never the same. This is the kind of match that caused Edge to retire. This is the kind of match that shortens careers. And you got to see that when Sin Cara got fucking carted off. You got to see that when Miz had to be helped up the ramp. It was this very subtle thing where over the course of this match, people can get eliminated due to injury. And I rather like the way they built up that danger without really having to get people that badly hurt. So, like, when you saw Sin Cara get powerbombed through that ladder, you're like, oh, shit, that guy's dead. So you're like, wow, this match is really dangerous. They should never do these except when it's really important, you know? So I like that. Alberto Del Rio won. The ending of this match was probably the best part, where there was this big clusterfuck, like all 8 of these guys are up on top of the ladder reaching for the briefcase, and they're all like, everyone's kind of taking falls periodically. And the way the finish was kind of fucked up a little bit as well. I wasn't really too upset by it, but Ray's going for the case, and Alberto grabs him by the mask and rips his mask off and throws him onto another ladder. And so you don't see his face, but like Ray's all covering his face, and he falls. But he falls by accident into Alberto's ladder. Alberto's ladder folds up from under him, and he falls. And I really don't think that was supposed to happen. I think Ray was supposed to go one way, and Alberto was just supposed to get the case. But Alberto, he's on the ground. He jumps back up. He's like, man, fuck this mask, and he throws the mask away. He sets the ladder up. He climbs up, and he gets to the suitcase. It was okay. I wasn't too upset by it because everyone else was kind of wiped out. It was a delay of 20 seconds, you know, but it was fine. I think everyone was picking Alberto to win this one.
Yeah. I don't see any other. I mean, they could have went with a few other people, but he was the clear one. He's been screwed over since WrestleMania for the title shot. So, this is the anytime. Whenever there's a slow period, they can just give him the title. Yeah, hotshot him the title, and.
Well, again, I don't know about that now because Punk, the champ has left the building. I'm really interested to see this next Raw because you have this situation where you kind of have to get the belt back, don't you? So I don't know what the fuck you do. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Like it's kind of like I said. This is a really fascinating time in Raw history now, where like it really feels like the title means something, which it hasn't meant anything in a long time.
That is true.
It feels special. I actually have no idea where they're going with this. I have no idea how they're gonna resolve the title situation. I have no idea how they're gonna handle Cena. Fire him? I don't see it, but I don't. They kind of wrote themselves in the corner. They have to, right?
Or he may try to offer Cena a way to win back his good graces.
I don't know. If Punk shows up at Raw, it'll be the dumbest thing he's ever done. Because Alberto will jump him with a fucking bazooka. Vince will put a bounty on his head if he shows up in that arena. You'll be like $100,000 for the guy who brings me Punk's head, and then he'll just put Alberto on top and have him count. I don't get that. People are telling me that Punk's going to show up on Raw tomorrow. Okay. If they do that, that'll be really bad writing. What the fuck would Punk want to show up on Raw for? I don't know.
But this is something that could... See, this is a feud, though, that can be built up over several months, though. And I would hate the fact that he would just come immediately back and just continue the feud where he left off. This is where you could have Punk gone and just deal with the fallout for at least until the next pay-per-view, and then bring Punk back and then continue where that left off. But
the only thing I can see right now, and I admit right away this is not a good prediction, but I could see McMahon saying Alberto Del Rio won the Money in the Bank, and the contract specifically says he can have a match anytime. They said that when they announced the match, they said they can have a world title match anytime, any place they want. So that says to me that maybe Alberto can specify a certain time and place, and Punk has to show up legally, or he'll be sued. So they'll have to have another match. That's all I got. Again, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you think about it. Like, how can Punk be contractually obligated to show up when he's not under contract to the company anymore? I don't know. Hell, he could pawn that fucking belt right now.
Yeah.
Because really the title is... I don't know. It's weird. I don't know. Then you had Christian versus Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. The stipulations for this one gave me a fucking headache. Okay. The stipulations were, if Randy Orton is disqualified, or there is... Or if there is bad officiating, Christian wins the World Championship. What the fuck does that mean?
That's straight out of TNA.
That's TNA booking right there. If there is a disqualification or bad officiating, Christian is awarded the title. So I was trying to think of what the fuck that means. Bad, like seriously, how do you define bad officiating? I know there's something you can point and go, that's bad officiating right there. But like, how does? Well, who determines that? Who's the arbiter of what is bad officiating? What the fuck? Like, like if Christian loses, can he throw like a challenge flag? Like a little red flag? That was a fast count. No. Is there going to be a secondary referee stick his head under a hood? Well, that didn't come up. This was actually... I was not into this match all that much, believe it or not. This match was fine. It really is the fact that I really don't like Randy Orton.
It just... I mean, it was standard. It just wasn't anything that elevated it to anything above a really good TV match.
It paled. It did suffer in the light of basically every other match on the card. After Money in the Bank, this wasn't even close. It was fine. It picked up at the end, but it was going. It was always going to. I did love the ending though. The ending to this was awesome. And I really didn't... this is another one of those examples where I watched this match and I'm entertained. It entertained the hell out of me. And I think I'm like... ordinarily, this finish would have pissed me off. What happened was, Christian's getting his ass kicked. And so, he's in the corner and he's begging off and Orton's about to get him and then Christian gets a mean look on his face and then he spits in his face. Just... He spit... Randy Orton's like, what? Motherfucker. And he whips him down, he starts punching him in the face, and the ref pulls him off, and Randy Orton, you see he's blown a fuse, and so he gets up, and Randy just kicks him straight in the nuts. And the ref goes like, ring the bell! It's over! Christian's the world champion! We warned you! And, Randy Orton's not listening, he's completely deranged. Although, Randy Orton's making these really weird faces.
Yeah, he's about to give the RKO, and he's like...
Like, you think I'm kidding? I'm not. Like, he was like... You ever see the Bushwhackers when they're making those retard faces where they're like... Randy Orton was doing this. Like, he throws Christian outside, and he's gonna RKO him through the table, and he's like...
It must be that they're just like... You need emotion, and you show more emotion. Like, people love when you're slamming the mat, when you're jingling around, and sometimes he's just like, okay, I'll give them what they fucking want. So he'll earlier, he did dance or something
when he kind of did that little stutter step, and then he RKO'd him, and then he kind of did that bell, he kind of did a splits jump.
Oh yeah, he did the splits, and so he just, I don't know, I think he goes out of his mind sometimes.
I really think,
and this time he's just like.
I really think Randy hated. I think Randy maybe hated the booking decision. He hated the way it was going to go, so he just he was intentionally shitting on it. You think that? He's like, look, no, really, Randy Orton the person did not want to lose the championship on a DQ, so he's like, oh, you want me to act like a fucking psychopath? I'll act like a psychopath. And then I really... Sometimes, Randy does this kind of commentary on stuff he doesn't like,
Possible.
I really think this might have been Randy completely shitting on the angle. Where he RKO'd the fucker twice on the table. It didn't break either time. The Spanish announce table wants to be, reinforced with steel.
What was interesting about this was, when I saw it, I was going, this matches the character, okay? I mean, the whole stipulation is the fact that he goes crazy and does things. And Christian plays him like a fiddle and makes him disqualify himself. That's why I liked it. It was a continuation of that story. But what was odd was he goes crazy, and the announcer's going, I've never seen this out of Randy Orton. I've never seen him go this crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going... This is the norm for him.
He's kicking people in the head all the time.
What happened with him, DDTing Stephanie McMahon and booting people in the skull, crippling them? This is all he does. The norm is if he's calm.
Yeah, what I liked about this was I was going I hate whenever they have a title change on DQ because it makes the champion look weak, and it did make Christian look really weak. It made him look smart, I guess. But the reason I didn't have a problem with this was because the way... I so don't think they planned it this way, but when Christian spit in Randy's face, he didn't spit in his face. He spit in his mouth.
Full loogie.
He fucking horked one right in his mouth. And Randy, he recoils. He's like, ah! And he's like, he's trying to spit the spit out of his mouth that he got spit in his mouth. He's like, dude, if somebody spit in my mouth, I'd fucking lay into him too. I was like, I totally understand that reaction. Like, oh, that's fucking nasty. Christian's a nasty motherfucker, you know that? Like, I completely sympathized with Randy Orton there. I was like, fucking kill that guy. I would. So for once, they actually got me behind Randy Orton on that. I was like, wow, gross, ew. I could not say enough about that, how fucking nasty that was. You sprayed your bodily fluids into me. Ew. And then there was the WWE Championship match, CM Punk and John Cena, and this is where I thought that if there was a fault of this pay-per-view, I actually thought the crowd was really pretty bad for most of this show. I think it was fairly obvious early on they only really gave a shit about, John Cena and CM Punk. Now, they got into it a few times, mainly for people they did not like. For instance, they did not like Rey Mysterio at all. Like, when Rey was about to win on Alberto, they were like, oh, fuck you, fuck this guy, no, boo, and they didn't like him at all. They got into the Money in the Bank matches later on, but it was actually very, very quiet for the most part. They really didn't make all that much noise for Orton and Christian, except near the end when it kind of got crazy. They were really pretty quiet. I think they were really saving themselves. They were really only emotionally invested in the Punk match.
My hypothesis was that because a lot of the rest of the pay-per-view was kind of predicated on what would happen with the end match. Mm-hmm. Like, if Punk wins, will someone cash in the Money in the Bank? In which case, who? So people weren't really caring about the Money in the Bank. They were caring about who ultimately would win out in the end, mm-hmm. which all kind of built toward the finale, so it kind of lessened everything else that went before it.
But this was like I said, this was a really intriguing match because I think everyone had their own theory about how they would book it or how they thought it would go, and I had a very cynical outlook on it. My prediction right away was a Montreal Screwjob, where Cena retained by Vince McMahon pulling a Montreal Screwjob, and I wasn't far off. I was wrong, but I had it down to a point.
It went down to whether you were cynical of like they would screw it up like the Nexus angle, or whether you would think they would do something that
my idea didn't necessarily have to end. My idea was not necessarily all that cynical because you could do a lot of things by ending in a Montreal Screwjob, where you could have Cena hate the idea, or you could have Cena be down with the idea, and all of a sudden you have a heel Cena, and I'm kind of down with that. That's fine. But yeah, I was thinking there's no way I was really thinking there's no way Punk's leaving the building with that title. Like, even if Punk wins, Money in the Bank is cashed in and that person wins. And
I think a lot of people were banking on someone cashing in Money in the Bank to at least try to get it after that happened.
The reason I think most people thought that is because it tied up all the loose ends. You had Punk win, you had this big pop, you had the big emotion when Punk loses. That way Punk wins but doesn't leave the building with the title. And because McMahon specifically said, if Punk leaves the building with the title, John Cena's fired, he didn't leave the building with the title, so that way you can have John Cena lose but not get fired. So I got that. It was a good guess. That's not what happened, but it's almost what happened. This was actually, if I'm being completely fair, this was kind of a sloppy match. It was saved by the crowd. The crowd was hot through the whole thing. This is where you started hearing Colt Cabana chants, and I didn't know why. And this is going to make me sound really bad, but I saw Colt Cabana in the front row, but I didn't think it was Colt Cabana. I thought it was a guy who looked like Colt Cabana. Because there was a guy who looked like John Cena in the front row, and I just thought that was a thing.
Well, I saw people in ICP makeup.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, who the fuck is an ICP fan?
I know, I pointed at those guys and go, hey look, there's some juggalos over there. And you're like, yeah, that's funny. Who would dress like ICP? That's ICP! I was like, what?
I guess that answers my question. No one's an ICP fan.
You had the Insane Clown Posse sitting near the front row, and I was like, oh shit, I'm really bad at recognizing these guys, apparently. Like, I didn't recognize Colt, I didn't recognize the ICP shit. It's kind of a sloppy match. It was a long match, which I liked. I really like long matches. This probably went like 40 minutes.
Close, yeah.
Very good. I mean, I liked it.
This was like WrestleMania with the Taker and Triple H. This was a match that was built on more emotion than on any wrestling that was going on.
Now, don't get me wrong, the wrestling was good. In fact, I consider this kind of a WrestleMania-worthy main event. This was really good. Now, the reason I say it was sloppy was because there was a lot of moves that didn't quite land flush that could have been as crisp as they were. I'm thinking one time when there was a go to sleep and Punk kind of kicked him in the armpit, which wasn't quite right. There was a couple times where Punk kind of reversed out of the attitude adjustment, and instead of landing on his feet, he kind of landed on his ass.
But yeah.
And there was one time where he basically got attitude adjusted, but he kind of just landed on his face. And kind of like just got up. He's like, I'm okay. And he did his thing.
For the first 15 minutes, I thought Cena was doing a terrible job.
He was stalling.
He was killing that crowd.
I think they were kind of letting the crowd simmer for a while. Because, the first 15 minutes of this match were basically John Cena just kind of throwing him in, like, arm locks and headlocks and kind of a chin lock and stuff like that. And just kind of stalling for time to maybe let the crowd settle in. I don't know.
But like, with any other match, they just work through it. I mean, they have a good match.
Yeah.
You can have a lot of stuff going on, but not be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can go through the standard moves. It's just that Cena doesn't have any moves. So he was basically like holding him down and waiting for the crowd to just fall asleep.
You notice that where Cena kind of ran out of tricks. Where like he's kind of got this very core set of moves, and there was a point in this match where he kind of he hit the attitude adjustment and Punk kicked out, and then Cena's like, I got no other moves.
I got nothing.
I don't know anything else. And so he was like, I know what I'll do. I'll go for an attitude adjustment off the top rope. So like you kind of got the feeling he was just going to kind of repeat his normal.
He did the STF 3 times. He did the attitude adjustment.
At least 3. They tried for it a lot, but he hit 2 and he tried for a 3rd on the top rope. You can really tell his repertoire is limited.
And that's where CM Punk really saved his ass.
Yeah. There was a great moment where he was in the STF and he reversed it in the Anaconda Vice. That was a great moment where you thought he was going to tap out and he was like, no, I can't. And then he kind of threads his arm through and he reverses.
He did the typical like Cena squash maneuver where he pulls him back into the center to reapply it again. And he's already went for the ropes twice, so you're like, is he going to climb for the ropes again, really? And he reversed it in the Anaconda. It was a really great spot.
Yeah. It's kind of funny though. They put Punk over really strong, to kick out of like two attitude adjustments and basically reverse the STF, which nobody had really done. Not really. However, I really have to rag on John Cena's selling. Once again.
I was ragging more. I was screaming during this match.
John Cena's selling was awful. There was a moment in this match where like Cena falls out of a move and he's grabbing at his knee like he hurt his leg. He's like, oh, fuck my leg, oh. He's kind of rubbing life in his leg. He spends like 2 minutes kind of like smacking some life into his leg and making sure he's okay. And then they just forgot about it. Like, he wasn't limping. He wasn't looking fatigued. He wasn't looking like he was in any kind of pain.
He was the only one that forgot about it because the commentators were desperately trying to add something to this match.
Yeah.
I mean, they talked about it all during the night, during this match. Oh my God, is he really hurt? He must be grimacing in pain. He's so tortured by this. How can he do these moves?
But he's hiding it. He's hiding it because he doesn't want to show his weakness to CM Punk. He's hiding it. But trust me, he's hurting. And the commentators were tasked with telling this impossible story of how CM Punk's leg was of how Cena's leg was really hurting bad.
He's doing leg drops from the top. He's doing gut wrench power bombs. He's doing suplexes. He's doing attitude adjustments. And not, like, even after he does it, he doesn't even, like, flick his leg like, oh, he's trying to shake out some numbness or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's just walking around, running, doing all this stuff.
He's running back and forth. He's pulling off power moves. He's climbing to the top rope. Essentially, after the 2 minutes where he initially hurt his leg, he stopped selling the leg entirely. As if it had never happened. And so the commentators were desperately trying to cover, almost, I think, trying to put it, like, psychically in his head. Sell your leg, you fucking twat. And he never did. Because they're like, Booker's all, we don't like to admit it. We don't like to show weakness, but we work hurt all the time. And I guarantee you that leg is hurt like a son of a bitch. And I'm like, it doesn't look hurt to me. He looks fine. He never sold that leg. Never, not in that match. It really bugged the shit out of me, especially since the commentators were really trying to put it over.
That made it worse. You're right. The fact that they were trying to almost like will it into existence that this injury happened, that they're selling it so hard. It just made it that much worse when he's prancing around, just doing power moves, like nothing fazed him at all.
Meanwhile, Punk was selling.
He sold his gut.
He was limping through the whole. After the STF, after the first time he got put in the STF, he spent that whole match limping like a bastard, man. And so I was like, Punk he's basically a god among men for basically doing he's everything that John Cena is not. It was brilliant in this match. So the finish of the match comes where basically it's in the home stretch. Punk is beat to shit. And then all of a sudden, Vince McMahon comes out, and
Cena put Punk in the STF again.
And then Vince calls for the bell, and nobody hears him, so he sends John Laurinaitis down to the ring to tell the timekeeper to ring the bell. Cena sees this and wants nothing to do with it, so he breaks the hold and decks Laurinaitis and walks like nothing was bothering him. His leg's fine. He walks over to Vince. He's like, "I'm not going to win that way," and he goes back in there and eats a go to sleep. 1, 2, 3. Punk's the new champion. So Vince goes over to the table and he tells people to turn the fucking music off, and he wants Alberto to come out right now. And so Alberto runs out with his briefcase, but before he can really hand it to the referee, Punk kicks him in the head and runs for the hills. He just runs. And so you see him leaving the arena, so one would assume he got away with it.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. Great match. Great pay-per-view. I really liked it. I do not regret spending the money for this one, which I can rarely say. Actually, I think the last pay-per-view I bought was Hardcore Justice.
I think overall this was a more solid card than I hate to say it, WrestleMania.
There were fewer matches on this card,
but more quality matches. I mean, I enjoyed the CM Punk Cena match. Was enjoyable. It was very good for a main event. The 2 Money in the Bank matches, and the other matches, while they weren't great, were
good. They were fun. Like I said, even Mark Henry and Big Show, I watched that and I wasn't.
It was inoffensive.
Yeah, it was fine. I watched that match and I go, okay, that's about as good as you're gonna get. And so I was fine with that. And so. It got people talking, it got me talking, it got me really interested, but you know what? It got me watching Raw, so mission accomplished on their part. Great pay-per-view, definitely. I give it a thumb up.
Same here.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. That's all we got from here. We'll see you, I don't know when we'll see you again. Wrestle is kind of one of those, in those states of flux, where I got so many projects working on, wrestling just kind of gets pushed to the wayside, so I appreciate your guys' support, and I don't know when I'll be back to do this again. But I will try. All I can promise is I'll try. I got I got Final Fantasy X-2 to shoot. In fact, I should be shooting it now, but I felt this was important enough to get it on camera. So thanks for watching the show with me, and see you next time.